Good afternoon, you viewers here. We're starting back with the Landrace this afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the San Antonio Junior Gilt Show here this afternoon. My name is Wayne Rohde, and I'm have the honor and privilege to be with Chuck Rio, who's joined me here up in this in the booth up here to help give some views and some things about the
Landrace show, and you can really give and take. You got a power hog, you got a build hog, and where you want to put your priorities amongst this pair. When we discussed them, we're going to go ahead and use the one that just ties a little taller at the top of her shoulder. She's just more comfortable and secure in her rear foot. And the young lady here to my left is going to go ahead and win this particular class. Young lady in the yellow's got one that does open up bolder and wider at the top side of her body. She is really bold and wide in terms of her back shape and her rib cage. She wants to kind of flip out of her shoulder, wants to be more hesitant and less secure there out of her hind leg. You can mix and match that particular pair however you'd like. I think a good pair of Landrace gilts. A more distant third is the young man's gilt that comes next. He might be just a shot taller shouldered than some, really big backed and big pinned, and young man does an exceptional job driving this very hairy gilt. But she's by some margin less comfortable than the two gilts that are in front of her. Like to clean up her flank just a tick. The gilt that comes next is another big scaled, tall shouldered type of gilt, just less comfortable out of both ends of her body, and all honestly, like to make her longer hipped, allow her to have more reach and flex. Gilt that's next is another gilt that has shape and has muscularity. It also is big-legged and stout within this particular breed. Doesn't balance as well from the side. Not as tall-fronted. Kind of gets easier there in front of her ham loin. We start working our way down. We got pairs of gilts out here. Just need some more feature, or need to be just a notch better built to move up within a very competitive class. Congratulate those Landrace exhibitors in Class 1.
That was the results of class number 16, the first class of Landrace here. As I mentioned before, Doug started with to talk the class. I have in the booth with me Chuck Rio. I have the honor and privilege of working with him this afternoon, and he's here to kind of share some of the things. He's been in this for forever. And Chuck, how long have we known each other?
Long time.
Yes, sir. I know it's over 40 years. I'm thinking back because I had my 40th class reunion here this past year, and it was before my senior year that I knew you. So
I knew your dad before you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, the next class that's coming up for your viewers is class 17. There's 30 in this class, and their birth dates range from July 3rd through July 22nd. Again, there's 30 head in this class. So as they're doing the individual sort out there, we'll get them to pen these pigs again into the pens and have some more in the Dead Sea here and for a second viewing. So, yeah, Chuck, I think back over the years growing up and some of the, how this hog industry has changed. I think back, because when I was in college back in the mid 80s and early 80s, we at the farm didn't really know what AI was. It was around, but we had not practiced it, or my family hadn't practiced it, and we finally started doing it back in 86 and or 85, that is, and so what the change in our industry has, you look at the pictures, they've really changed quite a bit. What do you see where we're at today in relation to where we were back, 20 years ago, and what kind of progress do you think we've made in everything in that fashion?
Well, there's no question we've changed type many, many times over the years, and with the advent of artificial insemination, it really sped the process up considerably because more people had access to these really high quality, really good powered bores, and the UPS delivery system really sped that process and fed it and got it going. But it has changed considerably. Some of the people are concerned about the way, the type of pig we've raised over the years, and you keep hoping to try to make them better. And I think we have. We're producing a really good quality hog right now. Not to say that over the years we haven't made some mistakes and gone too far one way or another. One thing that has changed, the AI thing kind of coincided with the demise of the small commercial farm, the demise of the breeders that were raising boars, much like we did back there in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. And so now, instead of having a lot of pigs out of one bore, you can have 10 sows and have pigs out of 10 bores and evaluate them and see where you're going. But there's no question it has improved, and we made a lot of progress with AI coming on board.
I completely agree with that, 100%. You could take these young gilts that you're seeing here, and I mentioned this earlier in the program this morning that these early July gilts, they're about ready to get ready to breed and stuff, and you have some of these boars that we breed to extremities, and with that, they can't support it in natural breeding, and you'll have some of these gilts that they would work the best. You use those extremities to those good, well-rounded gilts that has those strengths and get those extreme strengths of the males, and they couldn't hold them up. With AI, you're able to do, and like you said, got so many things advanced so much quicker in that basis. And I agree 100% too with the type of hogs. We were in that Arnold Schwarzenegger type age, the bodybuilder type looks, and now we're kind of gotten around to these middle road hogs that's not too extreme with, but not enough with, and good functional hogs. I sometimes wonder about the crossbred end of it. That sometimes my fear is the bone and the maturity level in them, but at least in the purebreds, would you agree that you're seeing that growth and combination in most of our purebred lines currently?
Most of them are still carrying true to that. That's very important, particularly as you show these gilts here, and we're showing by age. So if these hogs don't grow as well as they do the purebreds, then they're going to be at a disadvantage when they come into the ring. You make the comment about the crossbreds, and years ago a crossbred was when mated two purebreds together. Now we have multiple cross on both sides of the equation, on the sire side and the dam side, and from a genetic standpoint, somewhat mongrelized the growth, where they're not growing as fast as they are. And there is a certain obsession with bone in the industry, and everybody has their own opinion about that. But there's two ways to get bone, and one of them is through genetics, and the other is through age. And if these hogs grow a little slower, well, they're going to have a little extra bone. So whatever side of the fence you fall on, whether you think you need to have it or not, that's one of the reasons that's kind of come to be. But on the purebred side, there's still a lot of growth in there, a lot of performance. I think we need to keep one foot on level ground as we move forward and make sure that the hogs do what we want them to do from a growth standpoint, from a carcass standpoint, and from a reproductive standpoint. You mentioned about the hogs having enough width, and some of these bodybuilder hogs from years ago, we had some of these hogs too wide just a few years ago, which resulted in structural issues, farrowing issues, and so somewhat backed off of that a little bit. And typically the swine industry will respond to problems and correct them fairly quickly. And But those are all concerns, and those are all positives at the same time.
Well, I definitely think that, as you said, we've made some really good success in improving our quality. I know that you weren't able to be up here during the Duroc show because you had some grandkids showing and everything, but as a whole, you know, you and I have raised Durocs for a very long time, and one of the comments that I made, and I'm interested to see, do you think the Durocs have lately have come back to, you know, there for a while we were having some structural issues and bad rear legs and that. I think it's come back, I think, in getting these positives back into these Durocs again where they're become competitive again. What do you think?
Oh, there's no question. And you know, I'm really happy we have two good hog people judging here today. Both these people raise hogs. They have a lot of them, and that's a big part of their business. So, you know, when you have people like that and the producers that are judging, it sure makes things better. But the Duroc breed had some issues with structure, particularly rear leg structure a few years ago, and have made really great strides to improving it. And the only way that can be improved is the guys in the ring recognizing and going forward. And as you listen to them make their comments all day long, they talk about structure as much as anything, and that's very important.
Well, that's it's nice to hear those comments. That was some of the things that I mentioned when I was by myself up here. I thought they really provided a pattern, and you could follow them, and you could kind of figure they work so well together.
Right.
That's one of the things that I saw, that they're very comfortable with each other and work together. And then talking about our Landrace, while we're in the Landrace show, they've now excused the ones out of the main ring. They have about 12 of them back into the pens. They're ready to let them back out. And we've got 10 placing holes in here again. And there are only 2 classes of Landrace. I didn't know if the viewers might know that or not, but there are only 2 classes. And then they'll bring back the first and second place like they did in the Durocs, and they will go out for that breed champion and reserve breed champion. So not very long from now, in very short time frame, we'll be doing the champion Landrace drive here. Currently, they've got the first 5 out here. They haven't put one back in the pen just yet, but they're getting close. I think the way they're reviewing these ones that they've got out here.
Landrace breed has made a lot of progress in the last 10 years. Just really come a long way, particularly in terms of structure and shape and muscle and width, and still maintaining true to their breed values.
So growing up, I was always told that was the mothering type breed. Is it still that case today, do you think?
Well, we have really 2 different sets of genetics in the Landrace breed. We have the ones that are developing these show pigs here, and they're still very prolific. But then you have the ones that are strictly in the commercial end, and they are highly prolific. They do a great job in as a part of the puzzle or genetic pieces that go into the commercial herds.
So that genetics is being used in the meat packing genetics type, like your seaboard farms and that?
You bet. They have a percentage of Landrace in almost all the South.
So what do they cross that with then?
A lot of these commercial females or Yorkshire Landrace, and you're going to use normally a dark boar on them. Duroc, Hampshire, a lot of the Berkshires are really coming into play in these commercial herds because of meat quality. And Duroc Hamp cross boars are used pretty regular. but most of the sows maintained are white.
And just for the viewers, you mentioned the white. The way I understand is they dehair everything in the packing plants, and they want the white hogs because it's easier to dehair them.
They
correct?
prefer that. There's no question. They prefer that.
Looks like we've got 3 pens so far, and we still got 2, 4, 6, 8, about nine of them out here. What they did, Chuck, this morning, if they hold true to their consistency on that, they'll usually pen like 4, sometimes 5. They were up to 6 in some of those bigger Duroc classes, and then they'll, unless it's so deep for them, they'll go ahead and place after they pen the 4 and
4
then
or
place
5,
them.
yes. That's what I noticed this morning.
Chuck, did you ever have any Landrace gilts or sows on your herd over the years?
We never did.
We didn't either. It's not that I didn't think it was a great breed. It was. It just, we ferret out in the half-acre or 1-acre traps and and in A-frame houses. We had that what you call low-budget farming.
You bet.
And so, the Chesters just seemed to be a little hardier, and so we had them during that time. A few Yorks, but not very many. I know you raise quite a few Yorks still today, don't you?
You bet. We have quite a few of them. But going back even farther, most of these hogs, when they were outside, they wanted the dark breeds. And when we first started back there in the 60s, Durocs, Hams, Polands, Berks, those were the breeds that everybody had. The white hogs just weren't very popular at that time because of the outside environment. It's totally reversed because most of the hogs have come inside now.
Yeah. I've noticed we've kind of let the Yorkshires go, the few that we have, and kind of have the Chesters back. They seem to be a little hardier for the outdoor use. I don't know why, but they just seem to be.
There's no question about it.
But it looks like they have kept 5 of them that they're going to bring back out to do a final evaluation on. They're placing them 6th through 10th currently. And so once they get to the 10th place, then these judges will go in and give some comments to the ones that will have to exit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, we've got a few that just outside the top 10. Put your hands together for a great group of individuals. All right, attention in the barn. This will be a first call for Class 20 Hamps. First call, Class 20 Hamps.
Looks like they're down to the last 3 to make the 1st through 3rd place currently. So
Down to 2. I think you got them placed 3rd and 4th here.
Okay.
2 really good gilts.
Absolutely. Very functional and very loose made, loose structured.
really nice pair of Landraces. But relative to their size, there's one that's just a shot more, she's denser everywhere. She balances better from the side. She's longer from her hooks back to her pins and allows her to be just a shot more mobile and flexible in terms of her hind leg. She's better at the crest of her neck, and that's the young lady with the bow. She's going to win this class. The young man's got a gilt that does have some obvious pounds advantages. She's a big-chested, round-ribbed gilt that's big-pinned and wide going away. She's got more crest and fat right there in her poll. She's a gilt that gets a notch more rigid there in her stifle and vertical in the set to her hind leg. So it got close, but we felt more comfortable with the density of feature and comfort of the hind leg and the young lady's gilt. The young man's gilt's really elegant, and you'll love this thing from the side. She ties her neck in well to the top side of her shoulder, driven exquisitely. A tall fronted gilt in the same regard, but comparatively, she's just flatter and frailer throughout. The young lady here in the yellow has got a burly, dense one in terms of body cavity and blade width when she comes at you, just too rigid and short stepping from behind. Young man that comes out next is one that I penned up, or I sent to Will early, and then he got her drove a lot better, but as the drive wears on, that one's just too rigid off both ends of her body to get up any higher within this class. The young lady here in the white's got another one that's got width and spread, but at the same time, I need to see that one's hock pull further behind her when you set her in motion. Same goes for the rest of these. Need to see them just a shot more functional in terms of their skeleton. But congratulate those Landrace exhibitors as we select our champion here in a minute.
That concludes Class 17 Landrace. Next up will be Champion Drive for the Landrace division. Also, if you're in Class 20 Hamps, you do need to be to the show ring.
So Chuck, last night we kind of visited on, thinking back when the scholarships were given, and so I was able to get some information from the stock show because I wasn't 100% sure. And so it's kind of funny. I was telling some of our listeners, that it actually was a 5-breed deal starting in 1996. But now this Landrace show that we're fixing to witness for the champion, the first year that they awarded a $6,000 scholarship was in the year 2000. Okay. And it's funny, Fredericksburg girl actually won it, Charlotte Schmidt.
Oh, I remember Noah.
Yeah, so Charlotte's mom is Lisa Vogt from Comfort, and so she won the first scholarship back in 2000. And
all right, ladies and gentlemen, here in our Landrace division, out of Class 16, we have in first place Taylor West from the Sinton FFA. And out of Class 17, we have Campbell Gross with Grandview FFA.
So out in the ring here.
Really Mick, I didn't mean that. Very deep Landrace show, especially here on the top end. Quality gilts that I think are going to make the next generation better. I think between the pair of them, one's just a shot more elegant. She's a shot better when you crawl in behind her. I think the one that looks like a lady and looks and still has enough punch and power, the young lady out of the first class will be your champion.
Well, again, to echo Doug's comments, we thought for just 2 classes of gilts, a really deep competitive landrace show. I think both of these gilts come out here, and both of them offer a lot of good, and you could make a case for either one of them. We thought it was awfully close in that first class between those two, and we dropped that second place gilt out here, and a gilt that's so elegant from blade forward. She's ditch backed, and within that particular class, she wanted to tie up just a notch out of her hip and hind leg. But she comes out here, covers the surface, ties so many good things together. Young lady, second place gilts, your reserve landrace.
So this breed took a little bit less time than those red ones, huh?
There weren't many of them. The quality was good, though.
Hey, we're getting into your breed next again. I know Durox is, but Hampshire's one of your favorites as well.
Yeah, they've done well.
Absolutely. We actually used some of that. It was the black. Used some semen on one of your Hamp board. Black
Magic years ago. Black Magic bull was good for us. We had Black Cat.
Probably was Black Cat. Yeah, no, it did very well. In fact, we had one that won the age division in Kerrville out of that. So in our Hampshires, we're going to be starting with class 20, and there'll be 30 in that class, and the age birth dates is July the 23rd through September 5th. Quite a wide range, huh?
Wide range. That's pretty hard when you start having that much. It's almost 6, 7 weeks difference in age.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how they come together with those late August.
Results were as follows. In 10th place was Kate Swan from Sanger FFA. In 9th place was Cash Harris from Grandview FFA. 8th went to Landon Barnett from Louisville FFA. 7th went to Lakin Chambers from Lake Dallas FFA. 6th was Madison Woolery from Florence FFA. 5th was Cash Swear Engine from Boston County 4-H. 4th was Macy Bassbender from East Central FFA. 3rd went to Brandon Orgrave from Rouse FFA. And 2nd went to Brady McLemore from Parent FFA. And the class champion again was Campbell Gross from Grandview FFA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my.
To have a breeding program, there has to be a plan. It doesn't have to be popular. But it has to be backed by conviction. Backed by quality. The satisfaction is in the results.
We're in the class 20 here. He just excused the ones out of the big ring, and he's now letting out. He's got 11 penned out here, and he's just now starting to let those out here and evaluate them to put his 4 or 5 back. Chuck, I know this is one of, as we mentioned, is one of your primary breeds as well. Where do you think the Hampshire has come lately in comparison to years past with the changes that you've and the strides that they have made in this breed?
All right, attention at the barn, class 21.
Oh, the Hampshire breed has really come a long way from where it was just 10 or 15 years ago. It was pretty hard to find a really good purebred Hampshire, but there's a lot of them out there right now. And a lot of these people like to use them in terms of keeping one side pure when they're making their crosses. And a lot of these good Hampshire sows or really good Hampshire boars work good on the crosses.
From what I've remembered, with you bringing that up with your purebred Hampshires, don't they, as being, true pure moms and crossing them, you get more, a lot of times get some really good consistency in the offsprings?
Quite a bit more consistency. We're real pleased when we can, and when we try to, make paper gilts, we make them pure, of course, but when we want to make some crosses, we can take some of these good belted cross sows and breed to purebred boar or go the other way around. And these purebred Hampshire sows, as a general rule, are pretty good mothers now. They used to not be, but they are now.
I've noticed that a little bit, that I've kind of seen or been around it a little bit. They definitely have made strides, and like you said, there for a while you said you're almost sometimes saying, I want to tell people I raise Hampshires, but they've really come a long ways, and now I'm sure you're very proud of what they're doing and how they're performing, how this breed has come about, because their feet and legs are so much better than what they were in the past, it seems like.
It used to be really hard to find a sound Hampshire boar or a sound Hampshire gilt.
Probably on the boar side, even just finding one that had any vigor to him.
You bet. That's not the case anymore. These Hampshire boars are pretty fired up now these days.
So far, the judges have returned 4 of them back into the pens. I suspect they're going to maybe pull another one here before they start the placing. They haven't let all the pigs out. They're letting the last one out currently. So looks like they'll do a review of what's out there, or they just pulled the 5th one. So we'll see. But I think they're probably going to pull that one back out. Don't you think, Chuck?
I would say.
Looks like they might go ahead and keep 6 back to reevaluate. So I don't know, the viewers, these kids out here, we have this, the conference, type conference coming up, I guess.
And the Southwest Conference in Belton will be coming up that first weekend in March.
So these kids can actually, if they wanted to, they could actually interrupt and attend that, and if they made the sale, would be able to sell.
These kids on these purebred gilts and the crossbred gilts didn't have many options the last several years, but now with San Angelo having a sale, the Kerrville Elite, which will be this weekend, is going to have a sale there for all the breeds. San Antonio has a sale for the crosses, and then all of these gilts could be entered into that Southwest
All
Conference
right,
in
ladies and
Belton
gentlemen, class
in March.
21 Hamps, this is a second call. Class 21 Hamps, this is a second call.
I suspect probably a lot of the exhibitors probably are leaving here and then going on possibly
Correct.
to the elite show.
You bet. You bet. There's a lot
And
of
when
them
is
that'll
San Angelo?
go. It'll start that, I think this weekend also. I think their sale is Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, of next week. The elite sale will be on Sunday in Kerrville.
Okay. Now are the shows overlapping
Yep.
between those two?
Yep.
Well, now, Chuck, you mentioned Belton is coming up the 1st of March. On the gilt side, is it just the boars, or do they do the purity test on the gilts too?
They've been just doing the purity on the boars up to this point.
And your listeners that don't know what that is, on the purebreds, and I guess what breeds they do it in the Hampshire.
They're doing all of them now.
All of them now. In order to show a boar up there, have to have them go through a purity test. Chuck, you can probably elaborate a little more on what that all entails.
Pretty much they're checking DNA. I'm matching it against the breed composition, and as simple as pulling hair on them and submitting it, and it gets analyzed. And if they pass, then they're eligible to go into sale. They have very few that fail that are being submitted. But, it's a great attempt to keep everything pure.
Good. To get started with our Hampshire pair of gilts that surface for Doug and I think there's tons and tons of quality represented within this pair of gilts, but I think one of them and Doug's in agreement, just a next level in terms of a Hampshire gilt. That's a young lady's gilt directly in front of me right here. That one, to be that stout in terms of her feature, still gives you a really elegant feminine look about the front 1/3 of her body. Get on top of her, she's got great shape and spread coming out of the back side of her blade. Step off to the side of her, and she's just so proportional, whether you're looking at Hampshire females, Hampshire barrels, or Hampshire boar prospects. This one fits the mold for all those. We think an awfully good Hampshire gilt to get started with here today. Congratulations to that young lady. Young lady's gilt that's going to go ahead and be in second here. The slicker-haired gilt just kind of ran into a buzzsaw of a gilt ahead of her, because we think a lot of this second-place gilt. She's tall-shouldered, she's flat-backed, she's really secure in terms of the way she hinges and goes out of her hip and rear leg. We just didn't read that gilt to be quite as dense, stout, and burly as maybe what the gilt ahead of her was, but that's an awfully good pair of Hampshire gilts to go 1 and 2 within this particular drive. Young man's gilt that comes 3 is one that reads really tall at the point of her shoulder. She's really three-dimensional and robust through her forerib and center body when you get right on top of her. We get behind this gilt. She wants to push her hock to the outside of her body ever so slightly, wants to read just a little crestier right there at the top of her neck, and didn't read her just to hinge and plant and go with the same kind of flex and authority as the 2 gilts ahead of her. Awfully nice gilt to go ahead and be down in 3 hole. Young lady's gilt that comes out of 4 4 is one that's presented awesome in terms of skin and hair. She's got this gilt dialed in and ready to come to the pig show. We didn't read her to be a stout featured, and then she's another gilt when you step right in behind her and study her from the ground up. She wants to read a little more fragile about her ankle. Like to give her just a little more cushion and flex to her rear pastern to allow her to use her rear leg, which is more flex and authority. But man, that's a good looking, good presented one, ready to come to the pig show. Good young lady's done an awesome job to be all the way down in 4-hole. Gilt that comes next, you can say a lot of the same things about this gilt. She's tall-shouldered, she's attractive ahead of her blade. She's one for sure we need to reconstruct from the ground up. You study her rear foot, wants to get a little more refined and smaller, and then she wants to get simply too stiff and rigid in terms of her rear pastern. Need to give her more cushion and flex behind to allow that gilt to just go with more authority, but certainly admire that one just in terms of her look and presence. Young lady's gilt that comes now, out next, a big-chested, burly gilt. It's when you step off to the side of her, she doesn't proportion and balance as well as the gilts ahead of her. Wants to get just a notch shorter and steeper out of her hip and rump, but certainly one you admire for having some extra bone and muscle and shape. Just like to change her in that one particular area. Gilt that comes next is one you like in terms of look, presence, and having some shape. She's too straight off of both ends of her skeleton, needs laid back in her blade, needs to have more just cushion and give off of both ends to get that particular female any higher. We work through the rest of the class. You run into some gilts that have some muscle and shape, gilts that just need to be better in terms of their skeleton to get them any higher within this particular class. Great way to start off our Hampshire show. Congratulations to those young people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hilty. Class 20 results coming soon.
The ability to do things in real time, to do it fast, to reach the masses of people, is certainly a great thing for our business. But the bottom line is it still comes down to the people. You're still working for people on the other end.
Okay, that concluded Class 20. They're fixing to start on Class 21.
From Reeves County 4-H. If you're in the back, give them a wave. If you're not, get to the show ring now. Class 21 is being judged. Omar Salgado.
Okay, again, it's Class 21. There are 30 Hampshire gilts in this class. The birth dates start at July the 9th and goes through July 22nd. Again, that's July 9th through July 22nd, and there's 30 head in this class. So they're starting their first sort. I know, it pushes in.
There you go. Y'all at Hampson. Your dad had Hampson Chester. I remember.
Boy, he cussed those hands because they would never mount. They'd get on there and jump off.
We had the joke was you buy Hampton, we'll buy two.
Yeah.
That ain't the case anymore.
No, they're a lot better.
So I sent Mom a picture of y'all doing your thing, and she said to tell you hello, but also to Try not to cuss too much on the mic.
Well, you didn't buy us a six-pack, so that ain't gonna happen, man.
They really want color commentary, right? They should provide some beverages.
How's she doing?
She's doing good.
I miss her.
Huh?
Those were good times when she was here.
Oh, heck yeah, it was.
The crew we had
That crew was fun.
was fun and efficient and everything.
Yeah, because think about the numbers and how.
Oh, we weighed all those suckers? Ay, ay, ay. I'm probably still carrying some of that dust in my lung, though. Yeah.
And I know there's more hogs here than there used to be, but everything flows pretty good for the most part. One year, right when the Morris Center was first built, we had trouble getting the trucks in the gate up here. And we had to stop the show because somebody up there wouldn't let the truckers on. They couldn't load them up. That was the only time we ever had a real problem. They took bush on them.
You didn't want him coming after you. I know that nonsense.
Maybe it's off now. No, off. For right now.